Hi everyone, we're going to talk about the
Hello.
D&D Direct, and it's a good thing that we are because I didn't put up an episode out yesterday, so I'm going to put this up today.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the intro. What's up, dude? How are you?
Um, Doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Had a pretty chill day. I mean, I worked, but it was like, nothing went wrong, which is rare. So,
that's good.
yeah.
Uh, so we're talking a little bit about the D&D Direct that was today by Wizards of the Coast, by Dungeons and Dragons. First time they've ever done one of these. It was basically a live stream for about an hour, maybe like 40 minutes. I don't have the exact time. Kind of just talking about things that people can expect for the rest of the year in terms of D&D. And it was pretty
Right.
cool. I thought it was cool. I really hope they do more of these. We see these for like video games all the time. Like
Right.
E3 was a big thing. But
Exactly.
E3 is not happening this year. But I
Sad.
assume all the companies that do E3 will, do their own things. PlayStation did their own thing
Sure.
last year. Nintendo
Oh,
has
yeah, they
Nintendo
did.
Directs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nintendo has Nintendo Directs, so I assume Xbox will do something this year themselves. But
Do you think that's like a direction that uh things will just like go in generally,
yeah,
like
I mean,
point?
E3 was cool, but like E3 started for like I believe like investors. Like it was like a private event where investors could go and see what was the future for the things they were investing in were.
Right.
But it turned into this very commercialized thing where people really enjoyed it, and games would announce their new stuff they're working on. And I loved E3. I loved watching it. I always wanted to go, but again, it's a private event. You can't buy tickets. Um, and so when D&D said they were going to do a direct, I was very excited, and they announced some pretty crazy stuff. It was
Yeah.
overall in terms of directs, because I've seen a few of them. Nintendo Direct, again Xbox and PlayStation at E3 and whatnot. This one was actually pretty good. I was happy with it. There are a few big things that they announced and a few smaller things. But I have kind of a list if you want to go through and just talk about some of the things
Yeah,
so that,
sure.
yeah, cool. So the biggest thing that they announced, well, no, I won't say that. The first thing they announced is they announced Spelljammer, which is an
Right.
old, I believe it's from the second edition. Spelljammer is I believe from the second edition or 3.5, one of the two. And basically what Spelljammer is like it's like D&D in space.
Uh-huh.
It's like if you've ever seen like Treasure Planet, it's very Treasure Planet where like you fly around through space on these big like pirate ship things. It's actually the Astral Sea is what they call it. But
Right.
it's a pretty cool place. I've never personally um played anything in a Spelljammer setting or in the Astral Sea, but it is a cool setting. And there's some like popular uh characters from there. For example, Minx and Boo, Minsk and Boo, I think. Two guys. Minsk is a bald individual with kind of like a purple head, and he's got a little hamster. But in space, it's actually a very big hamster. It's like the size of a bear.
Right.
It's like a space hamster. Um, but so they announced Spelljammer, and they actually announced 3 books with it too, which is kind of crazy. They announced the Astral Adventurer's Guide,
Uh-huh.
Boo's Astral Menagerie, and the actual adventure, which is called Light of Zarixis. So basically, the
Direxis?
idea, Zarixis, I believe.
Okay.
Um, so basically, the idea is the Astral Adventures Guide is supposed to be kind of like for DMs and players, but DMs to kind of give them an idea of the setting, what the astral sea is like. things like
Right. So
that.
it's like more of like maybe the lore behind it and stuff.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Boo's Astral Menagerie is like, I believe, as far as I could tell, kind of an addition to that, but also kind of like a monster manual of
Yeah.
things in the Astral Sea. And then finally, there's the Light of Xerxes, which is actually the campaign,
Yeah.
the
Dude, I
story
read about
setting.
the those space clowns in there.
Yeah, there's space
That's very
clowns.
exciting.
Did you hear about the races?
Yeah, I heard about the races too.
Yeah. Okay. So
Some of
there's
them
some
sound really,
crazy.
really cool.
There's
Yeah,
some crazy races. First off, there's astral elves. So just
that's
everyone
dope.
everyone wants to be an elf already. So now you can be a
Right.
space elf. You can be an
Yeah.
elf from space. There's auto gnomes, which I
Which
kind of forget about.
it's like Warforge. It's like short Warforged almost.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
tiny warforged.
Yeah.
Um, there's Hadozee, which are like flying monkeys.
Yeah.
That Lord knows what people are gonna make with these. Gifts, which gifts are already
Mean
in
Jeff?
D&D. No, it's definitely GIF. In this instance, it's a GIF. GIF is the correct pronunciation of the
No,
moving photos.
no, it's not. It's GIF.
No,
Because
that's GIF.
you go off of what the first letter stands for, which is graphic.
No.
It's a G.
Oh, that's a good argument. But the best argument is that the guy that invented them said it was GIF.
Well, that guy
Can
can go
call it
to the
whatever he
astral plane
wants
and never
because he
come
made
back.
it.
Yeah,
uh,
that's
so
true.
so gifs, which are like giant hippo people, plasmoids, which are ooze creatures.
You're an ooze. You get to be an ooze,
You can
dude.
be Osmosis Jones. You
You can
can
be
be a
ooze
goo.
osmosis, ooze and osmosis.
Oosmosis Jones, which is interesting. You can be like a goo man. I wonder what kind of abilities that's gonna have. It's probably gonna be things like you can fit on in through like small
Yeah,
cracks and crevices,
dude, you could
and
turn
like you
into
can
a
morph into whatever you need to morph into. Things like that. It could be kind of cool.
dude. What if you could be like a like? Have you seen those videos of like non-Newtonian fluid, where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's liquid, but then like if
yeah. You
it
can basically be flubber.
yeah, but you could also be like hard as a rock, like
Yeah,
upon like a lot of impact. That could
yeah.
be
We'll,
cool.
we'll see what people make with those. And then the last one, I don't know how I feel about. It's the Thrycreen, which is an
Those ones look really cool.
insectoid. It's an
Yeah,
insect, but I just can't think of a single setting other than space, which I guess is why they put them in space, that you would ever want to play a giant insect. Like in a normal
dude,
game, what in the world are you going to do? There's
you're a
no
giant
way.
insect. That's so cool.
I find it whack. I feel like everyone that sees a Thrycreen anywhere other than like a distant planet
It's gonna
or
freak
in
out.
space is going to freak out.
It's gonna be uh, like you thought tieflings were ostracized enough. Like, just wait till you
Right.
see an ant man.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Um,
that
well, you
seems
could just
kind of ridiculous.
establish like in the context that those are maybe not super uncommon.
I mean, yeah, but
You
like
know?
to me, if I was DMing, I feel like I'd always make them uncommon.
Yeah, but then also I don't see that being like too terrible. Like
No.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind being like seen as like uh
Honestly, I'll
like
say
being identified as an uncommon
I'll say this, out of
race.
everyone that I play D&D with, I don't think anyone would want to be an insect other than you. I don't see
Okay.
anyone
Yeah.
wanting to be a big bug.
I would want to be Bugman.
Okay, so moving on a little bit. So these are going to be purchased as a book set. They come in a set of 3. I don't know if they'll eventually sell them separately, but they announced it as a book set, which comes with all of the books, a map of the main town that most of the adventure will take place in, or a majority of it, as well as a DM screen. Which is about like ship cargo and actually like crashing, and it has a lot of information about what you'll need for the astral sea, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was interesting. I'm on the fence about Spelljammer because I will say how they like presented it. It seemed really I don't know. It just seemed out there.
Yeah,
Like it didn't
I get that.
seem like D&D per se. It seemed like
Sure.
someone made a goofy space game. It
It
didn't feel
does
like Dungeons and
seem
Dragons.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit niche. But I think it's a really cool context for like a lot of interesting one shots.
Mm.
Um
Yeah.
I would definitely be uh I could be easily convinced to do a one shot in that environment because it
Now,
sounds
here's
very interesting.
something that looked interesting. Is that uh the whole thing only cost $50. All 3 books, the DM
Really?
screen, and yeah. So the whole thing's only
Wow.
$50. Now, what I assume is they're not, big, thick. I don't even know if they're going to be hard cop or hardback books. Um, because again, it seems like it's really just one adventure, some stuff for the DM to know, mostly probably about that adventure, and
Right.
then some monster manual stuff for that adventure. I don't know
Yeah.
that to be true, but it's only $50, and if you get it through D&D Beyond, it's actually only 40. But I think you'd
Do you
want to
think
do it
it'll
in
do you think the
physical.
physical will come with the code?
I don't know. I That's a whole nother story that we need to get into at some point.
Yeah.
But they didn't announce anything about D&D
Mm,
Beyond during the direct.
gotcha.
So we'll see.
Really?
Um,
I would have thought they would have at least mentioned, you know?
this is really the only area that they mentioned it, and I'll bring it up here is or that I see it. So actually, kind of 2 areas. So they said that this comes out physical or on D&D Beyond. If you get the physical copy, obviously you get the DM screen with it, so most people would probably want the physical copy.
Right.
Um, but they also said that if in July there will be a prequel to this. So that the 3-part
Huh.
thing comes out in August, but if you're
Mhm.
really excited, you could start in July and play a prequel that's called the Spelljammer Academy. So I guess it'll be like a little intro.
Okay.
So you could play a prequel in July. And they announced that 10 monster compendium is available today. That it's called the Volume 1 of the Monstrous Compendium, I guess, for Spelljammer. It just has 10
Okay.
monsters in it, but you can get that for free. And they announced that you could get that for free if you have a Wizards of the Coast account or a D&D Beyond account. So that's
Okay.
really like the only area that they mentioned D&D Beyond, I believe.
Okay.
Was, that if you have a D&D Beyond account, you get like this free thing.
Mm.
So, who knows? It also, something we didn't hit on last week, but it kind of makes sense that Wizards of the Coast accounts and D&D Beyond accounts will soon potentially be merging.
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like potentially that is kind of where they're going with that, maybe.
Mhm.
Moving on, they also announced a starter set called Dragons of Stormwreck
Oh,
Isle,
yeah.
which looks cool. It's a new starter set, and it comes with a ton of stuff. Apparently, it's better. It from the looks of the pictures. Okay, I will say this is such a small thing, but from the looks of the pictures, it looks like you may get like sharp edge dice, which is cool.
Ooh.
But basically, it comes with a rule set for DMs, blank and pre-made character sheets for 2 to 6 players, a set of dice, and a level 1 to 5 adventure book. So it's very much everything you need in one box. Um, so excuse me, I lost my train of thought here. So apparently, according to this article that I am referring to by TechRaptor.net, thank you, TechRaptor, for letting me pull from your work. Supposedly, the creators of it were able to confirm that the pre-made characters are supposed to be based off of the Dungeons and Dragon cartoon characters from the D&D cartoon a long time ago.
Oh,
But yeah, apparently some of the complicated aspects of the starter kit and the essentials guide have been kind of taken away to make it a lot easier for people to
gotcha.
understand the game when they're starting. A lot of the character sheets and the pre-made characters specifically are much simplified, much more
Okay.
simplified. So that's cool. The next thing that they announced, or sorry, not the next thing. I might be going out of order a bit, but I'm just going through all the things that I have. Was
Right.
they did announce that all of these things will be in multiple languages, which is cool.
Ooh,
So there's
that's
a
very
few
cool.
things. There's a few things. Actually, they announced the following books are already on the way. They're working on getting all of them converted. But they said that these books specifically are coming out this year. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They'll all be, by the way, in French, Italian, German, and Spanish. So
Nice.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything comes out this year. Monsters of the Multiverse, the new starter set that we just talked about, and Curse of
Right.
Strahd will all be translated for other languages, which I think is really cool. I think that's a
Yeah.
great thing. The more people they can play, the better. Um, they also announced, uh, I believe one. Okay, no, they announced a board game. They announced a few different games, which was like whatever to me. They announced a board game, which is a miniatures game. So it's like I
Okay.
don't know. It's called Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught. It
Hmm.
seems like a mixture of like cards and of different monsters that have different abilities as well as minis. A lot of interesting things. I didn't really understand it. But they announced some board game if anyone's curious in D&D board games that aren't actually D&D. They didn't give a release date for it, but they said you can pre-order it now, so who knows. They announced a movie and they
Yeah.
showed the trailer. So the trailer is or the movie is called, or they didn't show a trailer. They showed a teaser of the logo. So it's
Right.
called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Um, the biggest actor in it that I saw was Chris Pine.
Yeah.
The list came out, but I didn't really look at it. But that's supposed to come out on March 3rd, 2023, which there have been previous Dungeons and Dragons movies, and I confess that I have not seen them, but they don't look good and they don't have necessarily great reviews. And here's kind of my thought process on this whole thing. Also, they announced that they're still working on Baldur's Gate 3, which is a video game that is currently in alpha, but they just said that it's going to be in the beta testing now, I believe is what they said. And the game comes out next year. But it's a game that looks like I will never play it. But here's my quick take on Dungeons and Dragons video games and movies and why they all suck. Is because the point of Dungeons and Dragons is to be able to do whatever you want to do and be able to say whatever you want to say and whatnot.
Right.
And that movies and video games are pre-written, pre-developed, and so you
Right.
can't do that. And so they always fall short. Now, to people that haven't actually played D&D, maybe the movie coming out might be good. I think the last movie they made was just like trash all around, whether you played or not. So like it
Right.
sucked. But I feel like D&D fans will not ever enjoy movies as much as regular people. Because you could just go play D&D and do cooler stuff yourself. But I think
Right.
what we might see that could be cool is like just like cool creatures and spells and whatnot that we recognize. So I don't know. A few more things really quick. They also announced partnered with WizKids. I don't know if WizKids owns or if Wizard of the Coast own WizKids. I believe they probably do, but they announced a
Someone's
ton of
familiar.
miniatures for Spelljammer, including a gigantic dreadnought miniature that looked kind of cool.
Nice.
Um, So yeah, they announced a lot of that stuff. Baldur's Gate 3 is in development. Neverwinter Dragonlance, or no, sorry, Neverwinter Dragon Slayer or something. It was Neverwinter is another MMO that they have, that's related to Dungeons and Dragons. That's basically the next expansion is Dragon Slayer. Um, and then a few more things. So here's my favorite thing that they announced. Okay, are you ready for this?
All right, I'm ready.
They announced the Dungeons and Dragons creatures and terrain campaign cases.
Yes.
Did you see
I
these?
I knew that was gonna be your favorite thing. Yes, I did
Did
see
you
them.
see these?
They
Oh
look
my
very
god.
cool.
Oh my god. They look sick. Now, I
Yeah.
don't care about the terrain one as much cuz it's
Right.
basically like puzzle pieces to put together
Yeah.
maps and
And
stuff.
you just got a bunch of terrain stuff, so you're
Well, I
chilling.
got some terrain stuff, but also like I just feel like that's so much. Like having to carry around puzzle pieces and then assemble
Yeah.
everything. It's just going
Yeah.
to take too much time in a game.
Mhm.
I don't have time for that. Um
Right.
just using like any sort of grid map and then maybe plopping some trees and things down, that's a little different. But actually building the map itself, I feel like is too
Right.
much work. Maybe to the
Yeah.
right person.
Like, if you
Um
were, like, really into it, like, if you had, like, a bunch that were, like, ready to go, like, if you were the kind of person who, like, pre-builds, like,
yeah,
your scenes and has them off to the side, then
right.
I would
Then
say that's
maybe.
probably more worth it
Right.
to, like, have, like, the different, like, this one's grass, this one's sand, this
Right.
one's stone,
Or if
that
you
sort
were
of thing.
like super planner and you like
Right.
filed them somehow of like this is what
Exactly.
scene's gonna look
Yeah,
like,
you
and
have
if
them
they
in
go
order in,
here
like,
it'll
a
look like
binder,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I could do that. Now the campaign creature tokens, that's
Those are cool.
super cool. Basically what it is like a bunch of like chips, like circular chips of different sizes depending on how big the creatures are. And then you have a ton of stickers of all the creatures and you like place a sticker on these tokens and you can use them for fights and whatnot. But what they did announce, and I'm a little skeptical of this, but what they did announce, by the way, let me give some details. There are 64 differently sized creature tokens, ranging from tiny to large, and they can have any of the 159 different creature illustrations put on them. But here's what I'm
I have a follow-up
skeptical
question
of.
about those.
Sure.
How
What's up?
how many starbursts can you fit on the different
That's a good question. You could fit
because that's the only thing that matters to me,
a
really.
good amount, probably.
That's me.
Honestly, I got to bring the Starburst back. The
You
Starburst is
really
better.
do.
But
That kind of
I got to bring
yeah.
the Starburst back, but I got to hide the Starburst until you actually kill something.
Yeah,
Because
we
then
kept on,
everyone
like
just starts feasting on
yeah.
Starburst and no one cares.
Well, I
Um,
think we all if you bring like, a fake one, so you have to eat and do not eat once.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so here's the thing that I'm skeptical of. This thing looks sick. It comes with this like cool carrying case. All these chip things I know I would use all the time, and it's like really well organized and laid out. But here's the thing that I'm curious about is you're able to peel them off and on supposedly and like reuse them um and like change the things, and I just don't know how that's gonna work because
Oh,
it
like the
seems
reusable stickers?
yeah, they're like reusable sticker things, but I'm
Oh.
wondering if it's actually stickers or like some sort of whiteboard material or
No, dude,
something.
it's like cling wrap. It's like a so you've got your plastic piece, right? And then it's like a vinyl. It's not actually adhesive on there. Just it's made out of a material that kind of clings to the plastic, and then you can pull it off and keep reusing those.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
Yeah,
like again,
definitely.
I believe it, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering like how many times you're going to be able to reuse them until the things just don't stick anymore. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't seen the
Well, it's like I said,
material enough.
it's not an adhesive that would wear off. It's just like the material itself is
Right. Yeah, I
can like
guess
cling to
that
it.
you probably know more than I
Yeah.
do about that kind of
I
stuff
mean, it's
cuz
just
I really
I
don't.
I just remember I grew up with like sticker packs that were kind of like that, where
Mm,
it wasn't adhesive like in a pack, or it's like once you use it, it's stuck to your car window forever.
mm.
It's like or no, that's what I would compare it to actually, is like those window clings that you use for like Um, some people use them on their cars for like special events or like holidays, or some people will decorate like their windows of their house with them. But they're like these window clings that come off, and it's like you can move them around, reuse them.
I don't know
We
if I
used
know what
to.
you're talking about.
I just remember like having those at some point as a child, where you could just like continue to just reuse these
Oh, I
same like
think maybe I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
feel like
I
if you
just
saw
feel
it,
like
you'll
eventually they're
remember
just
it.
gonna wear off.
Maybe.
Um, but you're probably right. I mean, I assume they work well.
I know a
Um,
lot about stickers.
but they look cool. I'm down. I want the honestly, out of everything they showed, that was the one thing that I was like, that's really cool.
Right.
Few other things. So just some info on the terrain case, just because I gave some info on the creature cases. Basically, they give you a bunch of jigsaw like double-sided pieces that show different types of terrain like grass or dungeons
Uh-huh.
or caves or sand. And then some of them they also give you like a bunch of sticker elements or the same kind of thing that we're talking about for the character for the monster things, basically like sticker elements to decorate them and make them. But again, I just feel like that's so much work for something that someone's could just, imagine in their head pretty easily.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. Those looked really cool though. I was super down for those. And then there was another book that actually there were two more books that they announced. Um,
Right, there were.
yeah, there was Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, which actually was
Mhm.
not announced today. It was announced a few weeks ago. And it seems like it kind of has the same idea as like Candlekeep Mysteries, or like what's it called? Uh, Tales from the Yawning Portal, which
Right.
is basically like there was a bunch of different writers. They got a bunch of different writers, um, and all of the adventures in it are kind of standalone adventures. So maybe you could work some into your campaign, or you could just play them as one shots, whatnot. And they go from levels 1 to 14, which is pretty crazy. There's a lot
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
a big range.
Um, yeah. So what they did was they got all writers of color, authors of color, skin color. I mean, who each share that kind of like or have their own like piece of cultural history, I guess, and they wrote campaign ideas or not campaign ideas, but adventure ideas based on those adventures. So like the coolest one that I thought they showed a few of them, but the coolest one that like I understood immediately what it was one that was called like Night of the Remembered or something. And it was
Mhm.
basically based off of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, where
Okay.
basically like this city will throw a party to remember those who have died, but because it's D&D, obviously it's going to have some sort of magical twist. So the idea was that people's skeletons would come back for one night and like party with the living and like
Oh,
tell
nice.
stories to the kids and stuff about like their lives and stuff. So I was like that could potentially have some cool, you know, moments in it or like a cool idea. So it's a
So they
bunch of
just put
kind of
like Disney's
those types
Coco
of
in D&D?
yeah. So it's a
Nice.
bunch of those kind of ideas. So yeah, I don't know. It looked cool. They showed off a few like interesting looking creatures. They showed off like this tiger that looked like it was made of like gems or something, which was kind of
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's coming out as well. I believe that comes out this year in like yeah, it comes out this year on June 21st. And then finally, I believe, finally the thing they left us with was Dragonlance is coming back. So if you know what do you know what Dragonlance is?
I do not.
Okay, so I barely know. I know a very small amount of what Dragonlance is. I know Joe Manganiello is a massive fan of Dragonlance. Basically, the idea is Dragonlance was originally, I believe, 3.5. Again, I'm going to say 3.5, but it might have been 2.
Gotcha.
But the idea was it first came out in 1982,
Oh, wow.
and it's kind of almost more known for a series of novels that were written based off the world. So the world is called Kryn, I believe. And it's basically this like ongoing war of the gods. The gods are constantly at war with one another, and dragons basically are the gods, I think. Again, if you're listening to this, don't butcher me for not necessarily knowing that. I wasn't born in 1982. But it became very popular. The world and the idea of it became very popular after like a bunch of novels were written about the setting. But it's an old setting. It's never been in the 5th edition. A lot of OG D&D fans really like Dragonlance, so they announced that it's coming back, and they basically showed like a little teaser trailer thing, and then they said you could pre-order it, and then they showed just a 3-box set and a singular book, I believe. But they didn't show the cover art. It was just black with the Dragonlance logo. But it could look cool. Maybe that was the cover art.
I wouldn't be
And
mad about that.
I wouldn't either. It looked pretty clean.
Sometimes more of less is a little bit more than what it would be, and less of too much more.
I don't know if that made sense. I think you tried to make sense and make like a funny joke, but I don't know if it made sense at all.
No, it wasn't supposed to make sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looked, interesting. I'm down to hear about it. I know Joe Manganiello loves Dragonlance. And so, it could be cool. Just a bunch of big battles and war kind of games. So the first book is called Dragonlance: Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and it's releasing late this year. Now this article is saying that it was not book art, so sorry if that's the case. But it also looked kind of cool that it was just black. I'd be down with it. So yeah, I think that could be cool. They said that there will be one new race that gets added with it. Or sorry, not one new race, but they said one of the races that will be added with it is called a Kender. So if you actually Kenders are already out, actually, if you use Unearthed Arcana. Unearthed Arcana is basically like test material. But a Kender is already in the game. They're basically like little halflings, but they're a little taller and thinner. And yeah, they don't grow more than 4 feet tall. They get kind of pointed ears, almost like an elf. But their skin is notably darker. So, I don't know. I don't know much about Dragonlance, but I'm down to learn about it as all these things come out. So anyways, that's kind of an overlook. I know I kind of ranted and you didn't necessarily talk a whole lot, but that's kind of the stuff that they announced.
Yeah, I mean, you watched the direct. I just quickly read about it. Like,
we should have done like some like what we hope we saw and then watched it and then talked about it. But let me ask you this: if is there something after I explained it all and you kind of looked into it? Is there anything that you wish that they would have announced or talked about that they didn't?
I wish they would have like covered more of like what they're thinking of with the new acquisition of D&D Beyond.
D&D
just
Beyond.
knowing a bit more about like what that is, like the increased capabilities that will have going forward, because I'm sure they have a long list of important improvements and changes that they would like to make. So it would have been cool, but maybe it's like too early on in their decision making process for them to deem it necessary to announce anything publicly.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're still working on some stuff.
I thought we might at least be like, hey, or hear them say at least like, hey, we recently joined with D&D
I think they're assuming
Beyond
that
or
the
something.
community is fully aware at this point.
Yeah.
So maybe they
Well, I
and
mean, like, yeah, I was kind of surprised we didn't hear more about that, but you're right.
right.
It's so new. Like that literally just happened like 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago,
Yeah.
and so like to throw a bunch of stuff and have to announce stuff after that is probably extremely difficult. So,
Yeah,
I
and they
I
probably
I
haven't
understand.
made a lot of decisions yet.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I would have wanted to hear, and maybe this will just be a future thing because it's still a little far out.
mhm.
But I think, and I'm assuming they'll do one again next year, and probably we'll hear about it next year. I was kind of hoping to hear a little bit about their plans for 5e, or talking a little
Oh,
bit more
true.
about how they're trying to step away from 5e. Like again, they're trying to go more just this is Dungeons and Dragons now
Right.
instead of
Instead of having edition
this is fifth
after
edition.
edition.
Like they
Yeah.
never brought up that it was the fifth edition. Um, Even when they brought up when like Dragonlance was announced and Spelljammer,
Right.
I'm pretty positive that when they announced Spelljammer, they never said Spelljammer is coming to the fifth edition. They just said like Spelljammer's coming back, and that was it. So like
Right.
I know they're. It seems like they're trying to get away with from that,
Well,
from the
because
fifth edition mindset.
yeah,
So it would have been kind
probably
of
because they're getting
interesting to
so
hear something.
close to like a final form of the game, right? Because like
It
the
seems like
reason you
it.
have additions, I feel like, is because like especially when it's new, like there's Dungeons and Dragons, and then like at some point, like enough people play it and have ideas for how to make it a better game that you deem it necessary to have um like a second edition and then so forth. So maybe
Yeah. Well, it would also
yeah,
be a kick in the balls to everyone if they were to change it up in the next year or two,
yeah,
because the amount of players now is bigger than it's ever been. And so to
right.
like change the whole thing would be a idiotic move.
Right. Well, and
Um
it's never been like a full or has it felt like like a huge overhaul every time they go to a new edition?
I don't know cuz I haven't played the old editions, but from people that have, it's yeah. Like
Mm.
I know the role play aspect of 5th edition was like non-existent in the other ones. It was
Oh,
very, I mean, the first like two editions were all dungeon crawls. It was all make a character, and you really don't care about that character at all other than their
right,
stats. And now you go in. So like I know one reason why 5th edition is so enjoyed by a lot of people is because you can make like a character who you care about, and the role play aspect of it is a lot higher. The source
right,
material they give you in 5th edition adds a lot more role play, possibilities and things like that. And I know older editions didn't have that. So I couldn't tell you, what the differences were in all the editions, or what kind of changed through them. I know there was some complicated stuff, like when it came to combat, and some other things like that. But I'm not entirely sure. I know a few of them have felt like pretty big overhauls though. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but I think it would have been cool to hear something about, at least if you're not going to tease, the revamp of the monster manual and the DM's guide, which I bet they'll announce next year probably. At least be like, hey, we're stepping away. If this is your plan, you should probably announce like, hey, we're kind of stepping away from the 5e idea, and we're
right.
going more of a Dungeons and Dragons idea. I don't know. Even like a sentence or two about that would have been kind of interesting. Um, and then the other thing is, I kind of wish that they didn't focus as much on like the video game stuff. They did a lot of stuff with the video games. Like,
Mhm.
no, or someone cares, but I really don't. I was really hoping to just hear about books and stuff. But
Right.
Spelljammer's huge, Dragonlance is huge, Citadel is huge. They announced a ton of stuff, so I'm really not
Mhm.
complaining. Again, like I said at the beginning, it was one of the best, or one of my favorite directs I've seen in a long time. Um, that it was never boring content. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I
Weren't there
enjoyed it.
like I and like I just read through some of the points from the direct pretty quickly before we recorded, so I don't really in my mind, this isn't really attached to anything, but like I thought I saw something about like there were a couple new types of dragons. I forget which
Oh, there are
like
in
book that
Spelljammer.
would have been. Oh, it's in Spelljammer,
Yeah,
right?
there's
There
like
was
some
like
space
it's like a
dragons.
solar dragon and
Yeah, there's like
then
space
a
dragons or something.
lunar dragon.
Yeah, something
Those
like
were the
that.
two. Those
That
look
makes
really
sense.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of new creatures, and again, you can download a little pamphlet that has 10 of them
Oh, true.
right
Yeah.
now. There's also a 10-legged spider, uh, a giant asteroid. It's called like the 10-legged asteroid spider or something.
Wow.
And I believe they showed a picture of it. I'm not. I can't confirm, but they showed a giant-looking bug thing attacking a ship, and it looked like a spider to me. I don't
Whoa.
know why they had to do 10 legs though. Like, what's wrong with 8? You know?
It's space. It needs more legs.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
That's why every character in Star Wars has 3 legs.
I don't think that's true.
Okay. Well,
I
we'll
can't
agree to
confirm,
disagree.
but yeah. Okay. Well, all right. We're at 40 minutes, so we've kind of gone over a bit, but that's a little bit about the D&D Direct today.
Yeah.
So hopefully
Lots of cool
you
stuff.
are excited and
Yeah.
as excited as we are. There was a lot of cool stuff shown, and I'm
Yeah.
really, really excited for those monster
Stickers.
tokens. Those monster tokens, I think they come out in July or June, but I'm pumped. Those are going to be sick. And
Is
the
there like
carrying
pre-order
case is
open
so nice.
for them?
What?
Is there like a pre-order open for them yet or
Probably. They announced pre-orders for most of the stuff today.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
All right. Anyways, that was a
Sweet.
fun episode. Cool,
Yeah,
man.
man.
See you around.
All right. Next week.